Okay, and we are officially live and ready to go with what is an exciting and ridiculously important topic, mastering your niche. I appreciate the high interest in this. I want to tell you why I picked this as my first webinar for the agents newly as president, is that it is just, I think, the most important strategic thing that you can focus on for your business. Now, there's a lot of tactical things you can do, LinkedIn and, creating lead databases and all these other things. But the niche is at the cornerstone of how everything else is going to work. So I want to talk to you about what the rest of the world is doing, what the rest of the world is not doing, what the big billers do, and really give you food for thought about how you should either set up your desks for the newish people out there, or for most of you, redefine your desks, and for some of you, possibly even completely change your desks. All right, we'll open this up to live questions at the end, so don't be shy. What I'll do at the end is actually open up the phone lines, and then, I'll just ask you to, we'll see if that works. If not, we'll just turn to, regular sort of a Q&A. Okay? So the first thing, I mentioned earlier to you all before the recording is every agent, as you know, at ARG gets full access to all of my content. That's everything I have loaded. That's anything that I don't have loaded. So if you ever need anything in the training world, in the form world, in the, hey, Neil may have this, contact me. You know how to reach me. Okay, but I do want you to check out the portal, even if you checked it out on the first day. It's been redesigned already, so how do you like that for version 2? It's nice and pretty, and the main library itself contains 2 tabs. There's a section that has all the webinars, all the videos. It's got ebooks. It has, really anything that you really need, and there's some great stuff on there. It also has a boot camp section that I want to share with you. And then there's a second tab that's going to be forums, etc., for your library. I want you to take a look at that just for a second when you get a chance, so that you know exactly what sort of tools, forms, and everything that you guys can download. A lot of stuff there, and if you want to see anything else, you just email me, and we'll make sure that we get it up. But I want to call your attention, and again, you can get access to this by, clicking, expanding your Agent HQ, and click on the Dynamic Sale logo, enter your password and user ID, which Rob had emailed out to you. If you don't have it, email me, okay? And I want you to look at the boot camp section. I urge everybody to spend time and go through these boot camps. What's great about the virtual boot camps, even though it's not interactive because it's now going to be a recording, is you can watch these at your own pace. You don't have to dedicate 2 days out of the office, which is what this really is. When you include all the breaks and stuff, this is really a 3 full-day intensive boot camp available for your watching. It is not just bits and pieces of training. It's an interactive when you're live, but it's a comprehensive, I should say, boot camp, meaning it's a methodology that's repeated over and over and uses the same themes and the same ideas. It's how you can cheat the system. Okay, I call it cheating the system, but it's really just how you can work smart. And it's taken the best of the things that I've learned, that I've shared, that recruiters have really adopted that's worked great. So I want you to check it out. There's a perm one, there's a temp one. You don't need to do both because they have a lot of the same content. They're just geared for different audiences, and the temp and contract is a bit different than the direct hire or perm, okay, but you don't have to do both. So I want you to go in there if you haven't and watch the LinkedIn stuff. Even if you were at the live conference in the fall and you saw the LinkedIn stuff, this is much longer and you can work on your profile as you're watching it. So I need you all to do that. I need you all to be experts on LinkedIn. If you don't have at least 2,000 connections, I need you to start doing this maybe even this afternoon, no later than tomorrow. Again, the thing about being in your own business is there's no one forcing you to do this, but I urge you because it will change your desk. Trust me on it. I'm not pitching a product. You don't have to pay a cent for it, but I want you guys to use these tools to get better, and it's my fastest and biggest selling paid item in my inventory, okay? The other thing that I want you to watch, and I want you to go through all of it, but you can pick and choose the topics if you don't have time that are most important to you. The leads and territory management, which is going to be in the early part of the boot camps, are critical. I want you to watch that because it's going to really teach you, and you're going to see throughout the boot camp that it's all about sourcing. It's all about, hey, oh, by the way, must be in your repertoire. You should print that out if you need help in the beginning. Put it on your, computer screen on your laptop. You just got to get always good at finding out where the leads are and where the good candidates are on every call. And this boot camp can help you make it magical for you. So again, I really want everyone to please, please, please look at that. There's also an owners and managers, and what I call it on there is a tech boot camp. What that is, and you can look at that in bits and pieces, that's for those of you who want to start working on creating your blogs, or you want to know how to really send out great video emails, like some of the things I do on the dynamicsale.com, how you can, use HTML and, again, add pictures to the emails, how you can set up a WordPress blog, really easily, how you can use an Aweber for sequential mailings, and there's, again, 10 hours plus of stuff on there. Which I think you'll end up loving. But again, right now, do not focus on that stuff until you have a nice desk buzzing with business, because the most important thing for you is to be generating sales, okay? So let's talk about the niche. And again, a lot of this is just food for thought. So I want you to get the concept. I'm going to point out a lot of things, okay? But niches never existed. When the temp contracting order, I'm going to call it temp and perm, but you know what I mean. When the business first started, it was all general. It was all anything. And, then one day, and this is going back a long time, it was in 1946, a young guy by the name of Bob decided that he wanted to specialize and say, hey, look, I know accountants. Let me do that and let me see what happens. Well, the guy's name was Robert Half, and he created the first famous and really widespread business. It was only perm where Bob started. It wasn't account temps or anything. But he realized that there was a huge premium that people would pay on fees, and he became known as the expert for accountants, and again, got higher fees and was able to make money even though the niche was significantly smaller. So was born specialization. Now, you all know what specialization means. That's accounting, that's IT, that's engineering, etc. But what I want to tell you is you see why it works. People are willing to pay more, okay, and even if they're not willing to pay more, because you have the expertise in that area, just do the math. Even if you only have time, let's say the maximum candidates you can interview in a week is 100 people. Well, a general person is going to interview 5 types of people, and you're going to only interview, in Bob's case, accountants. So what's going to happen? By definition, even if you have the same skill in networking within that group, which of course you won't, you'll be much better at that group, but even if you have the same skill, what's going to happen? You're going to have a much greater cream that rises to the top. You're, by definition, if you pick your top, 10%, if you both do, well, who's going to have more candidates? You will. So that's why specialization works. But I got to tell you, if you get that concept, which I know y'all do, specialty firms are really almost generalists today. Now think about that. Right? If you're too general, i.e. accountants, okay, look, it's still much better than generalists. But it's just a specialty. It's not a niche. You're still trying to do everything within accounting, let's say, from accounts payable to CFOs. So the more someone specializes within that specialty, the same dynamics work. And look, one day, everyone's going to be hyper-niched. Or I was going to say, you're going to have a major hyper-niche population, and you're going to have a major specialty population, and then you're going to have a general population. Okay, so you need to get as specialized as you can. If you're just doing anything and everything, you need to at least specialize, in my very strong opinion. And if you're specialized, I need you to, hey, not drop any business, but I need you to focus now on a true niche, on a real niche. Now, in my live interactive boot camps, I ask everyone around the room what their discipline is and what they bill. And people are, in awe when they start hearing certain numbers, both in awe or the lack of awe. What's the opposite of awe? I wonder. All right, whatever. You get what I'm saying. But I ask everyone also what they think a big biller is. And you know what? As some firms will say, oh, yeah, $100,000, which makes me laugh. The normal number you hear is, yeah, 250, 300,000. 300,000 is a very common number. If you do that regularly or above, you're a big biller. And some people laugh at that and they'll say, no, 500,000 or more. Other people say 750 or $1 million. Those are big billers. All right, so when you go around the room in a big boot camp, and you ask people to share what their billings were, well, it was a rough year last year, but I billed 92,000 and I place, admin people. Well, I billed 220 and I place accountants. Well, I bill 480 and I place financial analysts. Oh, well, I build 650,000 and I just do traders. Well, I build $823,000 and I just do electrical engineers for oil rigs. Right? So you get it. The answer is obvious when you go through. The people that are more specialized and in a more detailed niche bill more. Okay? I'm not saying every case, because you can have people that just stink or they don't hustle, they don't do what they need to do. So if you hear and you see that, and you know it's the truth, you guys can poll it, you see what's going out there, you meet people at conferences. This is how it works for the most part. Now, I'm not talking about a Lisa, who is a perennial biller who doesn't use this methodology. Lisa, for example, you all know her. She's a one of a kind. You know, you're not going to replicate Lisa, right? I mean, again, I don't like to pick anyone out on the call, but Lisa and I talked about this, but this is going to help Lisa too. This will help her double her billings or add on 40%. So, you know, look, everyone uses the doctor specialty when you talk about our business, but I got to use it here because there's certain points that you just need to think about that are so obvious, okay? So, you know, where do you get more respect as a client if you're specialized or not specialized? Where will people listen to you more? And, you know, what I want to look at is, let's say you have a knee problem. Okay, now some people will, oh God, my knee's really hurting, let me go to my internist, my general practitioner. And some health plans, well, that's where you have to go. All right, Neil, hey, let me shoot you up with some cortisone, let me take an x-ray, let me do whatever. I never do that. Why do I want to, if I know what the problem is, I never go to an internist, a general practitioner. If I don't know, sure, they could start and help me with it. But I know it's my knee. Why on earth am I going to go to someone that dabbles in the knee when I can go to someone that just deals with bones, right? So I can go to an orthopedist. Okay, so if I have an issue, I go to an orthopedist. Why? Not that they're any smarter. Heck, my brother, before he decided to change his specialization into anesthesiology, was a general practitioner. So he's just as smart, but now he's an expert on pain management and anesthesia. So who are you going to go to? Where are you going to get better information? Where are you going to have more comfort? Now, the bottom line is the more specialized the doctor gets, the more they can charge you, and the more they do. And guess what? The more insurance reimburses them. Think about why that is. They don't think they're any better. They just know that it's worth it because the more money they spend on this doctor is better money spent because they're an expert in it. Now, I'll tell you, I take it a step further. When I ask friends for referrals and my knee is bothering me, why just go to an orthopedist? Why don't I just go to a knee doctor? An orthopedist subspecialty that only deals with the knee. Let's face it, we can only interview 100 candidates a week, or again, whatever that number is. They can only see X number of patients, and they can only do their continuing education and research on X hours a year or a life, right? So when someone's looking at the medical journal, do I need a general practitioner who's got to scan the entire friggin' monthly journal and go online and look at every single article posted? Or do I want an orthopedist that all they have to do is scan stuff that has to do with ligaments and bones? Or, in my case, wouldn't I be better off with someone that all that they do is read the articles and information about the knee? They get better at it because they're only placing people. Oops, did I say that? You know what I mean. They're only dealing with patients with the knee issues. They know the knee inside out. It's the same way. They all start as interns for another orthopedist, and guess what? All they do is see their 50 patients a week or whatever that number is. They all have knee problems, and they become better than general practitioner doctors, right? So you guys get that, and you understand why they can charge more. Sometimes they don't, but again, their room is just full of, and they don't have to worry about their business, because anytime anyone has a knee problem and you tell them, oh, God, my knee is really bad, they say, hey, you got to see Dr. Lebo, because he's a knee guy and he's great at the knee. Okay? If you go into Dr. Lebo, as an aside, I'm going to get to this later, and you say, doctor, I've got a bad sore throat, is he going to try to take the money from you and see you? No, which is when we're going to get into later about when you have to say no. So I need you to remember that. You specialize on something, you get really good on it, you become the expert by definition. By definition, simply by constantly talking to the candidates in that space over and over and over. And the more limited the space is, the more you're going to know, the more sound bites you have, and the better you're going to be at it. So when you create, okay, when you create a niche, you can determine it based on lots of different things. And there's 4 main areas where people create their niche. The first is function, right? And the function is going to be, well, what do they do in their job? Are they accountants? Are they attorneys? Are they recruiters? Are they outside sales? Are they salespeople? Right? The function, basically the job title. Okay, and you have a lot of people that do that. That's the example I gave earlier. That's specialization much more than it is niche, right? Unless the job function's very specific. Then there's sector niche, sector specialization. Right? And that would be, well, I just work in financial services. I just work with insurance. I just work with consumer goods. I just work with pharmaceutical. I just work with healthcare, right? All good things, because, again, you'll read the medical journal only about pharmaceutical. You'll be talking to only pharmaceutical-based people. All your websites that you use are all they're going to review are all going to be pharmaceutical stuff. You'll become a pharmaceutical expert. Still a specialization, still much better than just placing anyone, but you get the gist. Geography is another one, but it's becoming very, very passé with the internet, with the virtual world, and people say, should my business be local or should it be national? You're going to see that most big billers do not work a local business. And if you are, I think you should talk to me about it and explain why, and we see if that makes sense. You should really open it up, of course. But geography is one that people do. Then there's the level of the type of positions. I only place C-level people. I only place managers, or I only, right? You guys get it, the type of entry level, recent college grads, whatever, right? The level of the person. Well, the more of these things you put together, the more detailed your niche is going to be and the better it is. So put all of these together in any combination you want, and there's your niche, right? Credit analyst for commercial banks, pharmaceutical sales reps for male-enhancing drugs. I don't know if enhancing is the right word, Viagra, all that sort of stuff. Web developers in Miami, Florida only. Life insurance actuaries, right? Very, very specific about what you do. Now, normally in a live boot camp, people say, well, Neil, how can't you get too specific? And the answer is, of course you can. You just want a niche where there's enough business to make a living, but it doesn't need to be nearly as much as you think, because you're going to get to know these people at a whole different level. And even if they're all dealing with 20 agencies, or, you got to get on the approved list, you're going to not have to worry about that, because your sales calls become very easy. That's great, but I only deal with knee injuries, right? That's fine that you have 13 doctors. When you have a knee problem, I'm the guy to see. Right now you have a knee problem, you want to talk to me. Right? Again, that's not going to be your call. And if you say, they're going to say, what the hell are you talking about? You're a knee doctor? I thought you were a recruiter. So you know what I mean. I love this example because Jeff Kay, good friend of mine, great trainer. He runs an unbelievable firm in Dallas. He uses this. All his people only come in a very micro niche. So this is actually part of like his new employee training, and I asked if I could steal it instead of just redoing it. So anyway, not that it's so brilliant, but I just want you to get the math, right? So, look, let's say your market's really puny, okay? So let's say you deal with widget makers. So you're dealing with these widget makers, okay, and there are only 20 of them, right? Only 20 widget makers in any company, right? So there's 20 widget makers in any company, right? And let's say you got 50 companies, right? So you got 50 companies, And so that's 1,000 widget makers, right? Job changes, let's say there's 10% turnover, right, in the job, people leave, which is obviously really low, and 5% growth in the industry, meaning new jobs created. So that's 150 openings a year. If you only decide that you want to work with 10 out of these 50, 20% of these clients, the rest of them are going to be your sources for recruiting. Okay, so you source the other 40, you work with the 10. So your market potential, right, is 20% of these 150. Okay, so that's 30 of these openings. Let's say you get 20 of these, and again, you're going to know them so well, but again, you're still going to lose some for whatever reason. Your potential, fee, if it's $25,000, means just with this tiny world, could be $500,000 in production, right? $500,000 in production. So I need you to think about that. I need you to completely think about that, because that's how they really make a big amount of billings, right? So look, how long do you think it would take if all there were 50 companies and this was your approach? Only 50, and you were going to start today. Think about what your planning would look like. How long would it take you to actually make phone calls and reach all of these key people, right? Again, that was every single company. That means calling them to, again, see who are going to be your best clients, deciding who's going to be, people that you're going to, source from. And then again, as I mentioned, you're only going to work with 10 of them. So how long would it take you to constantly call those 10, and just get in bed with them, okay, figuratively, right? How long would it take you, think about it, how long would it take you if you wanted to call every single candidate that exists making those widgets? Every one of them. Every single one. That's 1,000 candidates, right? So what is that? 20 a week? 22, yes, 20 a week, right? How long would it take you to call 20 a week? 4 a day. You'll absolutely do that in a year, and if this is your only niche, you'd probably aim to get that done in the first 3 months, right? You will know every candidate that makes widgets. You will know what's going on with comp, what's pissing them off, what they're happy about, what issues they talk about, what periodicals they read, what web pages they read, right? So just look at that. Now let's say you double the market. That's $1 million in fees. If you deal with higher level fees, because your fees go up instead of $25,000, right, because now you're demanding more, because you're such a subspecialty and this is all you do, hey, even call me if you're stuck, but they'll want to. And if it goes up to $50,000, that's $2 million in billings. Heck, even if you drop your fees, it's still $800,000 in billings. Okay, so again, the more specific your niche, the better. You start small and then work outward, okay? The funnel theory that has constantly been ingrained into you is the opposite of what you want to do, right? The funnel theory is start big, get as much as you can, and let's find everything that's great and let's shrink it down. You want to do that with leads. You want to constantly source and, oh, by the way, get information, and then only get through the funnel those that are in your specialty niche. But when it comes to what you're going to work, start small and you can always expand. Meaning, don't just be financial services, okay? Deal in the equities market. Don't just deal in the equities market. Deal only with traders. And if you want, deal with certain type of traders, but that's fine. If that doesn't work, fine. Deal with traders and analysts in the equity market. You're still going to be tapped into the same group. It's a little more work. It dilutes it a bit, but you get the gist. I'll tell you what I also get is, well, Neil, that's great, but what about putting all of your eggs in one basket? I've heard horror stories, and frankly, we'll hear horror stories from people, right? We'll hear horror stories that, oh my goodness, I was in the mortgage business and I lost my life after the mortgage industry collapsed. Hey, shit happens, all right? It's going to happen. Hey, I was in the construction business in Miami, Florida. I was that guy, and that dried up. Well, the construction guy is another story that Jeff Kay always talked about, so I didn't meet the guy. But he had that happen. He immediately changed niches. And once you get the magic of how it works, you can become an expert in something related or something you're interested in really quickly. He just wanted to only focus on leads, networking, getting candidates, whatever, in a specific niche, and still kept his construction clients warm, so when that business comes back, he'll go back to his $1.5 million a year in billings. But by the way, if you're billing $800, $900, $1 million a year, now again, you guys are doing this maybe for lifestyle, but you don't want to be billing $150,000 or $200,000 with ARG. Not that we wouldn't love to have you. But why don't you learn how to do this so you can use this methodology and bill $300,000 and work a couple of days a week once you get it down? Wouldn't that be awesome? Isn't that why you're all here, to try to live the dream? And that's what you need to think about. So you could always expand later, but you don't want to be broad, okay? Now, here's a big concept on this last bullet, and I'm going to explain this to you. Okay, now understand now another big benefit about how it also works is that you get this concept, and you'll hear me use this all the time in training. It's the concept of recyclability. Recyclability. And that's something that cannot happen in any sort of a general service business. Okay, so what does recyclability mean? Okay, recyclability is when you can reuse anything that you spend time on, right? So again, when you're calling clients to develop them and they won't let you develop them, they become recruiting sources by definition. And I don't mean all right, well, if you don't work with me, then you will be a source of mine. Okay, that never gets anyone anywhere. Okay, but that's really what you're going to do. It's still a call that's really good. Anytime you try to market to someone, if they're in your space, you can recruit them. But again, any candidate you deal with, and here's the magic. If your niche is really specific, all you're doing is talking to credit analysts from insurance companies. Every insurance company credit analyst you talk to is worthwhile. They're either going to give you another credit analyst that's really good, and any good one that you have now becomes gold. Because instead of just sending them out to your one open job order that you have, you get to reuse them over and over, meaning you'll send them out to your 4 or 5 hot open jobs, which is all you'll need on your desk, if that. So each candidate gets to go to every opening you have, which is going to be 90% of your openings. The only difference is going to be salary level. All right, hang on there. So I'm just paused. Oh boy, hang on there. Pause, and my whole thing is off now. Someone just, boy, hang on. Give me a second. Okay, hopefully you can hear it now. So, again, when you recycle, okay, when you recycle, you will always have a place for these people. And there's another great thing that happens, all right? When you end up really, thinking about how a desk works, there's constant training on what sort of jobs to make viable. And you need to do it, right? You hear A, B, and C orders, or A, B, and Q orders, or red light, green light, right, yellow light. The reason recruiters are constantly trained to do that in virtually every boot camp out there is simply for the obvious reason that their desks are swamped. You can't spend time chasing weak job orders or clients that don't have a commitment or clients that are going to make you just send resumes or, God forbid, dealing with human resources because you only have X hours in the day to do this, and your time should be better spent hunting or finding people that are going to pay your fees. And that's what we teach people so that if they're really good, they could bill $300,000 a year, right? Well, how would you love never to have to worry about that ever again? For now on, the only reason you don't work with a client is because they are not in your specialty, period. Period. Back to the doctor example, you'll learn to say no, okay? But why does it work? Because of course you're still going to work with the A clients and the B clients, but you don't need to discard the C and D clients, which could include bounty jobs. It can include some split partners that don't really work great with you. It can include human resources that never returns your phone call. The reason is, think about it. Why do you care? Because you already have the candidates by definition. You will never be doing a search for any of those orders or spending any time on it because all of your orders are pretty much the same. Again, the only difference is maybe some salary ranges within it, right? So you will always want to fax over or email over. I hate when people still have faxes. It drives me nuts. But, right, you'll always want to email over a resume to HR if that's what they insist on. What do you have to lose? Here are my 4 best people that I have, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to submit them. And that's how they bill an extra couple of $100,000 a year, or $100,000 or two. Again, you get the point. You can work with the C and the D business because you get to recycle. How fun will it be when you're on LinkedIn, when you're using your monster views? Okay, and you know, think about it. How fun will it be knowing every good candidate I get, the odds of me placing them are now really super high. Okay, so again, this is very, very key, and I know I keep coming back to the concept of saying no, but I'm going to show you how it also works in a specialty business. Or if you don't believe in it, what I still want you to do is take the tips from this, and I still want you to at least start your desk small and then expand outwards. So I'm not repeating what I said before. What I mean by that is, even if you say, I don't care, I am still going to do manufacturing operations people, I'll do any level. It's a good niche. Hey, John Palcisco has that niche. It's awesome. But what I want you to do is still start with only one type of position and get really good, and then expand out as you do it. Okay? So when I was area manager for Agilon, one of the reasons I kept getting promoted is because I kept having startup branches of the year, because I figured out this secret. Honestly, that's what it was. That and some of the other things that are in my boot camp. So the normal thing people do when they're in business on their own is they want to be everything to anyone, and they want to get that check coming in, and they're afraid to say no to a client, right? So someone comes in, and they say, hey, Neil, we need some customer service people. Well, all my competitor area managers would tell their people to take that order, even though Agilon didn't place customer service people. But we want to get some revenue on the board so that we can hit budget so that we can grow. I wouldn't let my people do it. They'd get upset. I'd have some branch managers that threaten to quit. Will you pay me back for my bonus because I'm not allowed to do the business? No, but trust me, you're going to thank me for it down the road. They need to build their inventory on a small level of positions. In those cases, it was like our 4 main positions, all they wanted them to focus on. When they don't have the inventory, you nicely let your client know, sorry, we'll be doing that. We'll be opening up that line in a couple of months. Right now, any finance clerical position you get, we're the people. Then you build it, then you grow, then you penetrate. And you do not leave your specialty. You split it with someone else, you work with someone in ARG that has it, you turn it over, or you deal with a split partner and you introduce someone you trust. That's how you focus on your core. That's how you become the experts, and that's why most of these types of businesses end up failing. Okay, so think about that. Okay, so again, the next chart is just what I talk about with, you know, recycling, so you could take a look at that. You know, this expertise thing, and I already alluded to it with the doctor example, right? But again, call it this whole snowballing effect. So for one, you get to reuse these people that are hard to recruit for, right? You will, and even if you don't have the job orders, and that makes your skill marketing calls that you're going to get really good at from my boot camps, right? You only skill market these great ones. If someone says, we don't have any openings now, oh, you got to see this guy. My one client put the position on hold. He is awesome. This is all that I do. Right? Again, you eliminate that CDQ client situation that I talked about. But what it's going to do is it just gives you more confidence in this space. And confidence in recruiting is key. Your calls are going to be better. You will, at worst, get the same fees. But, of course, you're going to get higher fees. You're going to feel more comfortable in getting higher fees. And there's going to be a certain point, just like it's happened now with my consulting business. You know, I used to charge $500 an hour. I'd get it once in a while. Then I charged $250, and I got that a decent amount. And then for some, if they want volume or bulk, I do it for $150. I don't have time for $150 an hour now, just like you guys wouldn't. I mean, again, unless your desk was full constantly with it. So now I'd say if you're going to do it, it's $500. And guess what? I get it more than I would have before. But again, you're going to get a better reputation. You're going to stand out from the crowd, not only from the referrals that you get, but also, again, in the way you position yourself. What objection can they give you? Well, we're happy with the agencies we use. Awesome. Do they deal with knees only? Right? Do they deal with just, listen, I get it. You're one of the top X insurance companies, right? You have 34 credit analysts that you have on your team. All I do is network and place with credit analysts. So why don't you ask your other recruiters if they know what Section 89.4 is of the credit analyst creed? They won't. So if you want someone that needs that and that's important, I'm your guy. Sometimes we'll still work with them just for that area. I'm your guy, right? So, and you're going to have that. Now, another thing I want to add, and don't worry, I'll have plenty of time to end soon and get into Q&A. But here's another thing that amazes me. So I was doing this training 2 years ago, right? And you're right now in the midst of the recession. I feel like, Neil, I buy into that in good times, but I don't buy into a recession, right? I need to get more money because the pie has dried, right? I'm not talking about a niche like construction in Florida, right, or mortgages. I just mean overall, business had dropped significantly. So what they want to do is expand that pie, right? But it doesn't make any sense, does it? If you believe that working in a niche can earn you 20%, 50%, 100% more revenue, whatever the number is, and it'll be a certain factor percentage for each of you based on your skills. But whatever that number is, why the hell does the slice? Why the hell does the size of the pie matter? Right? The bigger the pie, or in a recession case, the concept is, well, the pie got smaller now. So in order for me to keep my same slice, I need to broaden my expertise. But my point is the math works the same way. You're going to have the same greatest likelihood. The pie got smaller for everyone. So of course your billings are going to drop. If you're doing it as effectively as you can, it'll drop by what the industry drops. So you know what? Those $1 million billers that did it every year, they're upset. They were upset in 2009 because they only billed $650,000. The $1.5 million billers are upset because they only billed $1.2 million. The 800,000 people are upset because they only billed $650,000. The $300,000 people are upset because they only billed $200,000. Right? You guys get it. So it makes sense in any market. You always start. The only time it should be different is if the niche that you're in itself, like I mentioned earlier, if that niche has dried up, and then you need to expand and keep those contacts warm. So again, what do you do if someone else comes to you for something else? Walk away. Refer it over. Don't go with your intuition to service them, okay? Don't. Now, again, some of you out there who I've talked to that said that's exactly what I do, and I'll find someone to split it. Hey, work out a deal where you get 25% of the job orders and give it to someone else. Or at least take what I'm saying and see how it would make sense to get away from this model, okay? So again, the big point here is when you do this, I want you to see how that everything that you do, everything will result in money, okay? And when you start straying off of this core, you start losing the recyclability. You just become, that time spent is either going to make that deal or break that deal. So even if you don't bill one thing in 2 months with this strategy, you know that it's going to come kicking in big time in the next month because, again, you're sticking just within your expertise. So before we get into some Q&A, I want to just share with you what you do now that you've created it. And I think it's kind of obvious, right? I think we talked about it, but you want to know every potential client or prospect you can in that sub-niche. If the sub-niche is still too big, this is where geography comes in. Know every single one in your local market where you can visit or meet, because face-to-face still will be worth 100 phone calls. Or know all of the top ones in the nation and start with the best ones that you want to get to know. Or, which is what I would do, follow only on the repetitive leads where you see people are using agencies constantly. They're paying money and they constantly have openings exactly in your space, and deal with those as opposed to people who might not use agencies or rarely use it, or they love to just go on Monster, right? So again, you want to get a nice, good handful of people like that 50 example I gave, or 1,000 total know the best 1,000 candidates in there and make that your strategy. Think about what your LinkedIn profile is going to look like. Think about what your LinkedIn searches will look like. Think about what your accountability is going to be when you see a new person. You're going to immediately look for the credit analyst in any insurance company. Okay? And you're going to want to talk to these people and know everything you can about them, right? All those examples that I gave you before. So here's a little bit of a checklist, and this is just, I think, very obvious stuff, and that's just part of your handouts, right? So researching all these people and, bio and getting forms for the people and using send-outs for it. And, again, everything that you do is within that niche, right? So, again, this is just a nice sort of summary of some of the things we talked about. when you go through my boot camp and you go through the prospect management side, this is one of the slides that I have on there. And I just want you to think about, a lot of this is common sense anyway about making that target small, and that's what you need to do in a micro niche. Because that's the way sophisticated companies set up their sales force. They don't say, okay, let's say we're going to take Famous Amos cookies, and it's really big in the Midwest and the West Coast, and we want to sell that now on the East Coast. They don't just hire 10 people and say, call the entire East Coast and try to convince them about why Famous Amos is so good. They don't just take their money and advertise on every TV station across the East Coast, right? They start in a market where they can get a base, where they could at least spend the money in repeat so that there's some value, right? Repeat the ads, make sure they see it on TV, they hear it on the radio, right? They see it in the newspapers and the periodicals, they see it on the web. It's the same thing you want to do. When they hire sales reps to sell this, they don't just say, okay, let's put one sales rep in New York, and again, whether you're selling Anheuser-Busch beer, let's use that one. Again, let's just say it wasn't big on the East Coast. Say, all right, well, go for it, sell to New York, and once you get successful, we'll add on a second one, then a third one, a fourth one. They figure out, well, how many distributors are there in New York? How many big bars are there in New York? How many mom and pop places are there? So what do I want these people to focus on? Well, I'm going to have you focus only on the big places. Okay, you're focusing only on the big places. Well, how many are there? In the big places, what do we think the call frequency should be? How many times do they need to call or visit this place? How many times do they need to do a demo? How many times do they need to send out free samples? And how many medium-sized ones? How often do they need to do that? And based upon that and how many hours in the week, they back into, okay, this is going to be your territory to these 3 blocks, but it's these 28 companies, right? That's all they do. Even if there's only one rep that they hire, they're only going to focus on those 28 companies. So you guys get the point, and it puts everything together. Okay, so look, you're going to see in that territory, example that I gave. So if you have a niche that's bigger than 50 companies with 20 candidates, you need to back into it. And don't worry about the math so much. But how often do you need to contact each of these people? Is it once per month? Is it once a week? Is once a quarter okay for some of these? A couple times a year? Right? And how many of these contacts do you need to then talk to? Okay? I don't mean check-in or touch-base calls, which you're going to have to add that to. But how many calls are you going to need to make to really, really build this niche? Is it 5 a week, 10 a week? Is it 20 like the candidate side? Right? And then you just do the math back into it. Or start small, and then when you accomplish that, grow and add on to it. This way you don't need to do any math. Okay, but that's the concept that you want to do. This credibility that you're going to have, this confidence that you have is going to be unbelievable. And think about why jobs don't end up getting placed anyway. Obviously, you'll place almost everything, right? You'll lose if you don't do the prep and stuff, right? But whatever your competition is, if there's only one person, you'll place half those jobs, right? If you have the candidate, but the recruiter doesn't know who to call, or if they kind of have an idea who to call and they start their research out, then they spend time going through their database, they got to spend time recruiting, and then they end up losing that job, or the job's in process, or the job gets put on hold, right? So they don't know who to call, right? The other reason it happens is they just don't make the phone calls. They don't really execute it the right way, right? And they don't know what to say. They don't to attract the desired candidate. They don't know the buzzwords or how to get the people excited. Okay, so the point is, if number 1 is wrong, right, if you don't know who to call, 2 and 3 won't make a difference anyway. And on the same note, if you get 1 done, 2 and 3 sort of take care of themselves. So having these candidates, who to call, the right ones, and it's a no-brainery in the niche, does it every single phone time. Okay, so then you simply develop your phone plan, and I want you to go to the territory management, which I told you, the lead stuff, and the skill marketing, telemarketing section. There's a detailed recipe in there that I won't go through here that just is going to show I'm going to go through the leads first. I'm going to go through my top targets. Right? You're going to practice this, and we're going to have all that stuff. Okay? So, and I think, in ending, before I open this up to questions, I think, look, if you look at all this stuff, your objection handling is going to be great. Okay? Because you know what? Listen, Mr. Klein, I get it, but I'm the only one who deals with knees. All right, so that's it. I mean, I've got some, stuff for you in here on blogs and stuff, but you'll be the expert on your blogs. You're going to be the expert on LinkedIn. You'll be the expert on any articles that you send out to your people. Now, your blogs are not, don't worry about traffic. You're not looking to make money on your blogs. Don't worry about all these things that are going to drive you nuts on the blog. You want your blog simply to be a showcase of your expertise, which is going to be articles that you rewrite that you've seen that others have put on the web, or other articles that people have posted and you comment on, or you ask other people to contribute articles, or frankly, you just scour the web and you put them on there, but it's only in your space. It's a credit analyst for insurance company blog, and you only put your clients there. So you make sure your clients and your candidates go there. No, it's not about attracting new people in our world right now. That's not what you want it for. All right, last big note I want to put out here is a lot of people have asked, how do you get all this information? Well, as I said, just by talking to the candidates, you're going to know it. But if you don't know how to use RSS feeds, this is a couple of slides from my internet marketing webinar and training sessions. And RSS feeds are something you should all do in your niche. It's a way that you bring the web to you for all the content that you're interested in. Google Reader has a great one. I happen to use my Yahoo, and when you look at your slides later, this is a screenshot of it. You can blow it up and see it. I walk you through on Yahoo how to set up an RSS feed. But again, if I go back to the last slide, you're going to see I got all the different blogs in there. I got LinkedIn questions on staffing and recruiting, so I can see when people are asking questions, so I can be the expertise in there. Anywhere where you see that little orange thing, which is all blogs, many web pages, you'll be able to subscribe to it. And again, this just walks you through how to do it. You need to look at this, I don't know, once a week, pick out the great stuff, add it to your blog, email it out to your clients and candidates, and again, you start becoming the expertise there, okay? So at this stage, I want to turn it over to questions. I will open up your mic as you have them. So let me see. Do we have any questions? Okay, so Richard, that's not a question. I'm all yours. He says, no more multitasking. Thank you, Richard. Again, start small, play big. Questions, guys, type them in. I could also open up your phones if you want to. Do we have any other questions? Don't be shy. Come on. Wow. This was that good. Do I need to open up the phones? I'm going to open up the phones. Let's see. I don't think I can open them all up at one time, and it's going to be a nightmare. I'm opening you. Do I get anything? All right, you know what? That's not working because you all are too much background noise. I will open your phone if you have questions. Raise your hand. Any hand raised? Ron, I see your hand raised. Ron, I'm going to open your phone, my man. Ron, talk to us. You're live on the phone with Neil. Hey, Ron.
Hey, this is really valuable because it's consistent with what we've been learning, that the hard sell doesn't necessarily work. And early on you told us to focusing is better than the shotgun blast, which a lot of people train you to do, which is ineffective. So it's really a great idea. Now, I use emails to my clients, which I try to do once a month, but I can see now that it's just been too general. I should probably go after organics, which is a growing field. Are blogs better than
and think about what that newsletter will look like. And you think they'll read it more when they start seeing it's stuff that's just based on organics?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can see the error of my ways. Because there's not only that, that's the growing area of food anyway.
Yeah, here's the irony is this doesn't take any more time for your day. It doesn't mean you have to work harder. It doesn't mean you work longer. The irony is it turns out to be the exact opposite if you're trying to maintain $300,000 in billings, which I got news for you. $300,000 in billings, which a lot of you would dream to do, sucks. It sucks. You hear me? Again, don't be upset with me because it doesn't suck if you're not working that hard, and that's what you want to make. God bless you. I think that's great. But if you're working hard and that's all that you're able to muster out, come on. Really. This is a great way. And the great news is, look, I'm with you. Life is about life, and that's why so many people are with ARG. But use these things so that you can really make it happen. All right, any other questions? Raise your hands, and I'll get to you. Thank you, Ron. I'm going to mute you. Any other questions? All right, well, at that point, I guess we're going to go ahead and end this here. You guys have been absolutely an awesome audience. Not that I can tell, other than I see most of you have been paying attention, believe it or not. And don't be a stranger. You got any questions? I am here to help. Carpe diem, my friends. Look out for your email for full engagement. And I am so thrilled to be part of your organization. I can't even begin to tell you. Carpe diem, everyone, and zip-the-doodly-doo.